Hey guys, it's Jessica with Expressions Vinyl, and today we are going to talk about cutting intricate designs with your Cricut or your Silhouette. So the first thing we're going to talk about is cutting with a Silhouette Cameo. The first thing I want to do when cutting tiny things is make sure my blade is nice and cleaned out. There's not any little bits of vinyl or paper stuck in there. And then we're going to talk about settings. So I like to have my blade on 1.5. You can have it on a 1 or a 2, just depending on your machine, but 1.5 works great for my machine. We also want to cut really slow. So you slow down your speed. I like to do it on a 2 or a 3. And then your thickness will be like a 4 or a 5, depending on how new your blade is. If you have an old or dull blade, you might want to look into getting a new one so you have a nice sharp blade to start with. So I'm going to start this cutting in my Cameo. And I am cutting removable vinyl in pink, and I'm going to cut out a pineapple. So I've got my blade on 1.5. I'm going to change my speed to 2 and my thickness to a 4. So now we are back, and we are going to cut with our Cricut this time. Again, you want to make sure your blade is nice and clean. Make sure there's no paper or vinyl stuck in there, and have a nice new blade or a nice sharp blade. You don't necessarily need a new one, just a sharp one, to make sure when you're cutting small that it's nice and clean and sharp. So we'll put that in our Cricut, and then we're going to have our settings on vinyl. Now on the Cricut, we can't control our speed, but we can control our pressure. So we're going to start with vinyl on the vinyl setting. And we are going to get it cutting. We've got those all cut out now, and now we're going to weed it out. And when you're cutting intricate things, you just weed it really slow. So have some patience and just make sure your vinyl is at an angle. And you're just going to weed it and go really slow and kind of wiggle it around so all your little pieces stay down and the stuff you don't want to come up stays. Okay, so we've got that weeded out. We're going to trim it and put some transfer tape over it. And then it will be ready to adhere to our project. Okay, so we've got that all cut out, and now I'm going to put some transfer tape over the top so we can apply it to our project. Transfer tape helps with keeping all the little pieces together, so we can just transfer it in one shot. So we'll trim that off, and then we're going to take it off of our backing sheet. Actually, we're going to rub it down with our application tool and make sure it's nice and stuck down, and then peel it off of our backing sheet. And this is the same thing. You just want to go nice and slow and make sure all the little tiny pieces are sticking to your transfer tape. And if they're not, you just push it back down and wiggle it until it does. So make sure you get every little piece. And then we are going to apply this to our acrylic piece. And then use our app tool again and rub it all down, and then peel off our transfer tape. And again, go really slow with all the little tiny pieces and make sure they're all sticking to your project. And you've got a little intricate pineapple. Another technique I want to show you is this elephant here. It looks like a lot of weeding, and it kind of was, but it wasn't that bad. So I'll show you a technique I like to do. So we'll get the outside peeled off, and then I'm going to take a little chunk of transfer tape, and instead of weeding out all these little tiny pieces, I'm just going to take my transfer tape and stick it on the top and rub it down, and then peel off my transfer tape, and it'll peel off some of those dots, and I don't have so many to pick out with my knife. So just do that all over. Sometimes it takes a few times, but it's way better than taking your knife and picking out each little piece. And then ones you missed, you can go out and pick out with your weeding tool or your knife. So that is how you cut intricate things. If you guys have any questions, leave us a comment down below and we will get you answered. Thanks for watching.